Hi again. So this is the 100 square lesson 2. Okay. As an introduction, I think it's really important that you've got your students in lesson 1 to the point where a lot of this is just consolidation. So you should be really familiar with lesson 2 and be introducing it yourself verbally into lesson 1. So you're taking them on the correct journey through lesson 1 to get to lesson 2. If lesson 2 feels like a separate lesson or a eureka moment, then I think lesson 1 hasn't been effective. This should just be confirming where you've already got them to in the last lesson. So I'll show you what I mean. So this is a starter just to remind them what they've already done. And this is just formalizing with language exactly what you've been explaining to them in the last lesson. So very explicitly showing that Ben is generalizing patterns and then confirming it with maths. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. This should be quite straightforward, and you should be able to move quite quickly. If there seems to be a lot of confusion here, then maybe go back a pace and have some of the mini whiteboard tasks from the last lesson available so that you can take a step back before coming to this point. Okay. So he's still fun. This should be quite self-explanatory. So it's about generalizing patterns. A mini whiteboard exercise. Again, like the ones that I added, I thought that those were the slides that were missing from lesson 1. So they should be very familiar with what they're meant to do here. It's just consolidation, reminding them, cementing that knowledge. A little bit harder than the examples from yesterday. Okay, remembering, making sure you're looking for any student that hasn't written the N. That's the most common error. There's an exercise. Again, be really vigilant. Ask students intermittently to show you their pieces of paper so that they're not writing add 1, subtract 1. They are writing N add 1, N add 10, and so on. Importantly, they will mark their work as correct even if they've missed off the N's, because they think all that's important is the +1, the +11, and then they've missed the point. Okay. So these are quite nice exercises, especially for faster, stronger kids. You can have these ready. Okay. This is talking about the rights and wrongs of algebraic expressions. You can create a bit of discussion as to it's more than a variable being involved. What's the same and what's different between the left-hand side and the right-hand side. In these equations, you've got two different expressions that are equal to each other, but we'll go on to the importance of the equal sign in later lessons, but just highlighting the difference between an equation and an expression. Importantly, that the value of the unknown in the expressions can have any value. The minute you've made it an equation, for example, half y equals 4, then y has a very specific value. Algebraic expressions, they can have any value. It's an unknown value. Okay. So then for them to write out definitions, you probably want to have this printed out, or maybe you're going to ask them to write it in your books. I'll leave that up to you, but think about whether that needs to be available for them to pick up on the way into the classroom. And then a mini whiteboard check. Have they understood what an algebraic expression is? Can they produce one for you to look at? Okay, now the bingo game is fun. You may not get this in the second lesson. This may be in a separate lesson, but it's really worthwhile playing. If you go to the book on the algebra project, you'll find the bingo cards on page 19. They're all varied there, so it's a really easy thing to prepare. If you print off a sheet or two, are there 2 pages of them? I think there are, yeah. You can just print them off and cut them up, and they can pick up those on the way, or you can have them ready on the desks without telling them what they're about at the beginning of the lesson. So as long as they're all different, they can have one each. really easy to distribute, not like some other matching tasks. Okay, and then the bingo game is explained in the book, but just in brief, Ben and Answer do their own explanation. So they're looking to be able to cross off their rules. Now, with any game like this, just read through, check you understand it. The children just want to win, and they're quite happy to cheat, particularly if you're stood at the front of the classroom. So think of how you will check with them. You might just slow down the game without completely killing all the fun, and check with them what they've crossed off and what was the expression, and does everyone with their hand up, do they have the same expression? Do we agree that that person has scored it off their card? So just slow it down slightly, because otherwise, the first time I played this, someone won in about 3 moves, and it was too complicated to check. But of course, I noticed afterwards they hadn't won at all. Okay, so and that's it. So those are the slides where they play the bingo against their own cards to mark off. So I think that's quite clear. Ask me if there are any problems. Otherwise, go to the book. Page 18, 19 is where you find the bingo game. And then these are just the bits to print. Okay.